stories around the world to stories here at home. This is the National News Broadcast. A pleasant evening. I'm Dulanjali Ananda.
A very good evening indeed. I'm Charita Viniparachi, and let's move on to the headlines for tonight's news.
The 16th commemoration of the tsunami disaster falls today. Island-wide ceremonies to remember the tsunami dead. 712 more COVID-19 patients have been fully recovered. A new program to uplift local milk production.
On to those and other stories in detail now, and starting off with local stories. Today marks the 16th anniversary of the tsunami catastrophe, which had destroyed hundreds of thousands of human lives and an enormous amount of properties. In Sri Lanka alone, more than 35,000 people were killed in this disaster. A tremor which had occurred in the bottom of the Indian Ocean at 6:55 a.m. Sri Lanka time on the 26th of December 2004 recorded its intensity as 9.1 on the Richter scale. The gigantic sea waves of the Great Tsunami had reached the shore around 9:25 a.m. at a speed of more than 800 kilometers per hour. 14 countries in the Asian region were devastated by the natural calamity. 14 districts in Sri Lanka were affected without any discrimination based on racial, religious or rich and poor differences. Only an unpleasant memory had left behind in minds of many who had encountered the tragedy. The train that was engulfed by the tsunami waves, killing nearly 1,700 passengers, is regarded as the world's most deadliest train accident. The then government had taken expeditious measures to restore the situation despite the fact that the country had lost many resources. The outcome had been that Sri Lanka was well in advance in comparison to other countries in bringing normalcy to the affected nation. An all-island 2-minute silence was observed from 9:25 to 9:27 a.m. today in the memory of those killed in the deadliest menace exactly 16 years ago. Prime Minister Rajapaksa has also joined to commemorate those perished in the disaster. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has also joined to commemorate those perished in the disaster at the Prime Minister's official residence. After observing a 2-minute silence, the Prime Minister had lit a lamp to remember the dead. Madam Shiranti Rajapaksa had also attended the occasion. The commemoration program was also conducted in front of the tsunami monument in Perlia to recall the memory of those killed in the tsunami train accident. Minister Kehelia Rambukala has also joined the commemoration ceremony in Kandy to remember the tsunami dead. Minister Ramesh Patil has also participated in a remembrance ceremony in front of the Kurudhuwata Tsunami Memorial in Akmimana. Another commemoration ceremony was held in front of the Tsunami Memorial statue in Tangol town. A group comprising of relatives of those killed who disappeared in the tsunami disaster were present on this occasion. Tsunami victims are also commemorated in Polhena Mathura. The event was organized according to health guidelines. The main commemoration event in Batiklu was conducted near the Navaladi Tsunami Memorial. Relatives of family members killed in the catastrophe were also attended. The tsunami dead were also remembered in front of the tsunami monument in Puthotam, Vaunia. Minister Chamal Rajapaksa, issuing a communique in remembrance of the victims of the disaster, said that the government's commitment to safeguard the people affected by disasters and disruptions has been amply demonstrated through the Saubhagya Dakma or Vision of Prosperity program of the President. The minister further said that they will dedicate themselves to fulfill the task by accurately involving the program to build a secured country. Measures have been taken to commemorate the National Safety Day, which falls on today, giving prominence to the situation faced by the country due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Minister Chamal Rajapaksa in his message has expressed condolences of his ministry and the government to all who suffer even at the day by losing their loved ones in an unanticipated disaster.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa received the blessings of the sacred tooth relic at the Sri Dalada Maligava in Kandy. Diyavatana Nilame Nilanga Dala welcomed the President upon arrival at the Sri Dalada Maligava yesterday. The President, after venerating the sacred tooth relic, called upon Mahanayaka of the Malwatu chapter, Most Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Nayaka Thera, and inquired on his well-being. Thereafter, he met the Anunayaka Theros of the Malwatu chapter, Venerable Dimbul Kumbure Vimaladama and Venerable Niyangoda Vijita Siri Theros, and engaged in a brief discussion. Later on, the President visited the Asgiri Mahaviharaya to call upon Mahanayaka Thero of the Asgiri chapter, Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Nyanratna Thero, and received blessings. The President also called upon and inquired the well-being of the Anunayaka Thero of the Asgiri chapter, Venerable Anamaduwe Dhammadasi Thero, and Registrar of the Asgiri chapter, Venerable Madagama Dhammananda Thera. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa also engaged in a brief discussion with the Anunayaka of the Asgiri chapter, Venerable Veneruwe Upali Thero, upon arrival in the Asgiri Gedige Rajamahaviharaya. The President also visited the Asgiri Mahapirivena, where he met and received blessings of the Registrar of the chapter, Venerable Narampanave Ananda Thero. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa also engaged in religious observances at the historic Jayasiri Mahabodhi this morning. He also received the blessings of the chief incumbent of the Atamasthana, Venerable Dr. Pallegama Srinivasa Thera, at the sacred site. The President was also seen engaging in an amicable discussion with devotees who had arrived for veneration at the sacred site. The Prime Minister also attended religious observances at the sacred Ruwanvali Mahasaya. He also received blessings of the Viharadipati, Venerable Pallegama Hemaratna Nayaka Thera. The President also inspected the development project at the Ruwanvali Mahasaya. Thereafter, the President arrived at the Mirisavati Rajamahaviharaya. He received the blessings of the chief incumbent of the Vihara, Venerable Italavatnuve Jnanatilaka Thero.
And here's the local update of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Ministry of Health says that the number of fully cured COVID-19 patients has reached 32,051. 712 more fully recovered patients have left hospitals yesterday. 40 fully cured COVID-19 patients were discharged from the Pinnavala COVID Treatment Centre. They were residents of Colombo, Gampaha, Avisavela and Navalapitiya. 26 fully cured corona patients have left COVID-19 centre in Polonnaruwa today. All of them were residents of the Colombo district. 15,161 COVID-19 recoveries have been reported in the country since the beginning of this month until today. The highest number of COVID-19 recoveries recorded in a day was reported on December 16th. Accordingly, 785 recoveries were reported on that day. Meanwhile, a total of 712 COVID-19 recoveries were reported today. The percentage of fully recovered patients has increased to 79.57% or 32,051 patients. Accordingly, 19.97% or 8,045 patients are undergoing treatments. Meanwhile, another 500 COVID-19 patients were identified in the island today. Out of this total, 448 have been identified as close associates of the patients of the Paliaguda cluster. The remaining 52 patients have been identified as those connected to the prison cluster. 13,516 PCR tests were conducted yesterday. Accordingly, the total number of PCR tests up to now has reached 1,192,056 mark. 3,615 COVID-19 patients have been reported from the prison cluster. Out of this number, 2,962 patients have been fully recovered. Only 648 patients are undergoing treatment.
Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Economic Revival and Elimination of Poverty, Basil Rajapaksa, has instructed relevant sections to provide necessary lands expeditiously to BOI selected investors who are engaged in setting up of milk farms. He has given the order at a meeting to discuss on the project held recently. The objective is to fulfill the country's milk requirement locally. Accordingly, lands are to be handed over to the investors to set up milk farms in the first 3 months of the next year itself. The work will be carried out under complete supervision of the Board of Investments at the Mahawali Authority. It has been pointed out that small and medium-scale milk farmers are responsible for more than 85% of Sri Lanka's domestic milk production. Another aim of the project is to create large-scale milk producers as well. The BOI is encouraging such investors through provision of appropriate farmland and supply of animal feed. The program is targeting to set up 10 new milk farms in the central province through contributions of the plantation companies. Minister Mahindananda Alutgamage and State Minister D.B. Herath and officials have participated in the discussion held in this connection.
And meanwhile, an airing of a balloon to obtain meteorological data on numerous components in the atmosphere has taken place this morning. The experimentation has been conducted jointly by students of 18 universities. The testing took place at the premises of D.S. Senanayake College in Kandamala, Dambulla. The balloon with the data accumulation network has been devised utilizing equipment imported from America. It has been reported that the balloon, after reaching a height of between 35 to 40 kilometers in the air, would blast. The data box affixed to the balloon is broken to be brought to the ground by means of a parachute. The university students said that if the experiment will become successful, it would be possible to use balloons instead of satellites for research purposes. And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Do it just tomorrow at the very same time. Stay safe. Good night.